Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. I'm your host, cousin Cornell Wright, the people's lobbyist. Join me, have one, and let's talk about diesel fuel and inflation. So, cousins, I drive a diesel vehicle. I bought it because of efficiency, because of environmental considerations, and because it made sense for my cost per mile of driving. And I like it. Great vehicle. And who else has diesel vehicles? Well, a lot of people who are in trades and people who have small businesses have diesel fuel vehicles for exactly the same reasons I bought mine. And who also runs diesel vehicles? Well, truckers. In fact, almost all truckers run diesel fuel. Okay? So, cousins, here's a story about diesel fuel that you might not have noticed. And if you're driving by and you're complaining, oh, gee, my gasoline prices are so high, in most states or most places you go, the gasoline prices are in red, right? Usually at the top. The diesel prices are in green, cousins, and those are at the bottom. And if you want to feel sorry for our cousins, think about what the price is on the green ones, okay? Cousins, so here's my story. I had a chance to go on a little road trip with the missus back in February. When we took off heading south, I was paying about $4 and, $4.50, maybe $4.35, whatever a gallon for diesel fuel. I thought that was high. And it was at that point in time. By the time we came back from our trip, a couple weeks later, diesel was now tipping $5, $5.15 or something like that. Cousins, this last week, I had my first triple significant digit gasoline bill. Now, unfortunately, I got my tank down low, so I had to get the diesel fuel. And it was like over $6 a gallon. In fact, I got a low price for $6.19. I had seen it up as high as $6.59, $6.70. Whew. My goodness, cousins. Triple digits. Now, that's nothing new for all you folk cousins out there. You have small business, so you got the big trucks and stuff taking care of business. That's happening on the regular. Think about that same effect, cousins, on the trucker cousins. Now, remember I did an episode on truckers back a while ago, seasons, and how important they are to us and how we need to be concerned about them being viable in regards to businesses, for safety, and for environmental reasons, but also because guess what? Everything you have was probably delivered to you by a trucker from somewhere else. Think about that, cousin. Food, clothes, everything in your house, you name it, it came to you by a truck at some point in time. So, what does that mean? So that means as I'm sitting here complaining because I had to pay $6 plus for diesel fuel, truckers are having to pay that same amount of money because that's where I fill up. The trucker stops, right? And then think about how much that's going to mean to them and for the companies that they're part of, and how much that means for carrying a truckload of goods, i.e., the price goes up. All right? So, cousin, here's a couple other things that you might not be aware of. There's a federal tax on gasoline and on and diesel fuel. And the federal tax is only 6 cents more per gallon on diesel fuel. So when you look around for a scapegoat as to why the price is so much, the federal government's not it. And if they take 6 cents off of my $6, what's that, 1%? Come on, cuz that's not going to be a big difference maker. But I talked to a buddy of mine who's actually in the energy business, and he said, well, let's look around for a couple other things. So, also for those who are not diesel fuel and heating oil are basically the same fuels, okay? So that if your price of heating oil has gone up recently, you know why, because it's diesel fuel, the same stuff. They put color in the diesel, the trucks, and I ride on the highway, the stuff you use in your home is not. So if your internal heating costs have gone up, fortunately getting out of the winter, that's going up, there's a consideration there, right? So it's inflation coming in two ways, things delivered by trucks and internal costs. One of the major factors on that, cousins, has been the impact by the Russian invasion into the Ukraine. And so my buddy said, consider talking about Vladimir as being part of that problem. Why? Because Russia produces a lot of oil. And they then have oil that goes into Europe and other parts of the world, including coming to the United States, from what I understand. And then that then has impact on a global reduction in oil that's available. Therefore, there's not enough product, and we still have the need. And as I talked about in other episodes, when supply and demand are out of sync, there's more demand than there is supply, prices go up, we have inflation. Cousins, unfortunately, it's a real simple equation, but kind of hard for us to figure out how to get out of. So here's the impact of that, cousins. So cousins, by impact, I'm talking about what does that mean to inflation? Well, we just talked about it. Everything that's delivered by a truck has transportation costs a part of it, and that raises the price. Everything that you do normally or personally driving around in your vehicle raises your price. If you have heating oil fuels and you're still using heating oil, it's getting a little bit late in the year in May, so maybe you don't have that problem. But if you had to order some for your company that may use heating oil in order to run your production, your price goes up. So cousin, when you hear people start talking about, well, it's a political season, right? We're talking about what you can do to help impact things positively. When people talk about changing and impacting inflation, here's one of the cost factors, and ask them, what are they going to do about it? Everybody's talking about now, oh, we got to fix inflation. You vote for me, I can fix inflation. Cousins, no. No, cousins. You think about it. Inflation goes back to being supply and demand, right? There's also been the Federal Reserve, as you all are hearing, has started to raise interest rates, which also has an impact on all of us, and that's intentional, what? In order to slow down how much money you have to buy things. Simple. But the Federal Reserve has also said that if Congress were to enact a number of legislation and bills that they have sitting on their desk, that would also help to reduce things. Think about that, cousin. Congress can have an impact on that. We're in the middle of having congressional candidates come talk to you and ask you for their votes, asking you to rehire them for their positions. Now, cousins, there's a number of bills that are currently caught up in the House of Representatives and the Senate that has to do with infrastructure improvements, has to do with telecommunication things, has to do with education, giving community college education, child care, health care, all those things that do what, cousins? They impact your budget, don't they? So think about it. So they're coming and asking you for their vote to go back again. What have they done in order to try to help impact those things that could have an impact on how much money you could make and or how much money you can save in a situation in which inflation is growing? You with me, cousins? So they're saying they want you to vote for them. So ask them, what are they going to do to help with inflation? By addressing some of those things that they could do in Congress to help all the cousins out. And by the way, cousins, just because it's not my idea, because it didn't come from my team, doesn't mean that we as the cousins don't need it or want it, right? So when they come and ask you, you ask them one simple question. The simple question is, what are you going to do about it? What's your solution to fix it? And don't let them give you some of that pie in the sky stuff. Ask them to address what they're going to do specifically. And then ask them, why did you wait so long to come up with the idea? Mr. Congressman or Mr. Congresswoman or whomever, Senator, all right? You've been sitting there for all this time. Why did you come up with the idea? Why did you get the vote done for us? Because cousins are out here having troubles and problems, and we can't fix inflation other than reducing what? Our interest in the demand for something. But sometimes, cousins, you can't fix your demand for something, right? If I have to go visit somebody, I have to go visit, I have to drive, it's going to cost me. If I have to buy something in my house, it's coming by a truck, it's going to be more expensive. You with me, cousins? We all have to eat. That's all delivered by trucks, which means the price is going to go up. Right, cousins? That's what it is. And so if a congressman comes saying, oh, well, I can fix this, well, ask him how, her, how they're going to do it, and why did it take them so long to get to you with that recommendation. All right, cousins? All right, so look. I was complaining about diesel fuel. It's directly related to inflation. It's directly related to the elections that's coming up right now, and what are our politicians who work for us going to do about it, help us fix the problem. You with me, cousins? All right, join me next time on Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. You take care of yourselves.
We are the people. We are the people.
Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas is intended for the participation of responsible adults of legal drinking age who wish to engage in substantive virtual discussions and social drinking for entertainment purposes only. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas does not advocate the abuse of alcoholic beverages. Choosing to participate in any of the drinking activities shared in the program should be made with moderation and caution and is the sole responsibility of the user.